Matt Byrne, welcome.
Thank you, Mark. And thanks to all of you for coming. I guess I've got a big responsibility to start and fill 15 minutes without my opponents here. 5 minutes. Okay, you said I thought it was 15. That's better. All right, so I'll address first. Mark said I'm not the Claremont County endorsed candidate. I have been endorsed by a number of different organizations: the Warren County Republican Party, the Madison County Republican Party, Cincinnati Right to Life, Dayton Right to Life, Right to Life Action Coalition of Ohio, and Ohio Right to Life, Ohio Citizens PAC, which is a pro-liberty, pro-constitution organization, and a large number of elected officials in Warren County, but in other counties as well. My background. Obviously, I'm running for judge. Obviously, I'm a lawyer. I represent clients. I'm sorry, is this a problem if I move? I represent businesses in civil litigation in both state and federal court, at both the trial court and the appeals court levels. I work at a large national law firm. We have about 900 attorneys. We handle clients from small family-owned businesses to large international corporations. It's a robust practice. It's a practice I'm very proud of. I handle things like wage and hour class action work, discrimination cases, non-competes, some tort matters as well. It's a busy, sophisticated legal practice, and I'm very proud of the work that I do. But I have been telling voters around the district, and I'll tell you, that I think that all of you probably agree with me that President Trump has done a wonderful job filling the federal courts with excellent jurists. And the key to his nominations is that he is really, when you boil it down, looking at two things. First, candidates who have legal excellence demonstrated in their career. Obviously, he wants good lawyers to end up on the bench. But second, he's nominating candidates who have the right legal philosophy. He's nominating candidates who are constitutional originalists and textualists. And I know as voters thinking about the judiciary, a lot of you and I often look at potential judges and say, well, are they really that? Because it's easy to tell a bunch of Republicans, oh yeah, I love Justice Scalia, or I love Justice Thomas, or I'm a constitutionalist, but are they really? And the president has ultimately spent time, and his advisors have spent time really looking at the backgrounds of these people. Now, you are the president, essentially, when it comes to the state courts, because the voters choose our state court judges. They're not nominated. And I think my argument is you should apply the same criteria, and I'm the candidate who meets those criteria. I've already told you about my legal practice, which is a great practice, but you can also look at my background and know that I have the right judicial philosophy for the job. The Federalist Society is the national organization for conservative lawyers. The president got his Supreme Court list from it, most of his court appeals nominations. It's the only organization that exists at the national level to promote the ideas of constitutional originalism and textualism within the legal profession and with judges. Not only have I been involved my entire legal career, I was the president of the Federalist Society's Cincinnati Lawyers Chapter for 5 years up until I got into this race. And in that role, I worked to promote those ideas that the role of the judge is limited to say what the law already is, not what the law should be, and the idea that when a judge is looking at the text of the Constitution or a statute, their job is to look at the original meaning of the words and apply those words as written, not to invent new meanings. These are not living documents that change over time. They're essentially, I like to say, it's like a contract. In addition to, I think what you can see in my background that shows you I have the right judicial philosophy, I'm involved in our community. I'm on the board at Pregnancy Center East, a pro-life pregnancy center in Cincinnati. It's not in the district, but I'm happy to be involved there. I'm involved in a number of bar associations, active in our church, headed up the education commission that oversees our kids' school. My wife is the vice chairman of the Warren County Republican Party, so I was very involved there and was on Central Committee up until I got in this race. But I also worked at the Bush White House prior to going to law school. After I graduated from college, I went to work for President Bush, working on non-judicial nominations. Our office was responsible for finding candidates to fill positions within the government that were non-judicial. And in that role, I like to say that I consider myself more conservative than President Bush, but I love him as a man and was proud of the work that I did there. in that role, I understood the importance of filling those positions within the government with the right people, with looking at their background and looking to find people with the right philosophy. I'm proud of the work we're doing. We're campaigning in all 8 counties. I want you to know something about the Court of Appeals. Most of you are familiar, at least in general, with the work of the trial courts, whether it's from TV or something you've experienced. But trial courts and courts of appeals are very different courts. Trial courts have trials, for one. Courts of appeals do not. Trial courts have witnesses. Courts of appeals do not. The work of a trial court is dealing with the facts and the law up until the trial in the case. After the trial is concluded, if a party wants to appeal, it goes to the Court of Appeals. All appeals in Ohio go to the Courts of Appeals, with the exception of death penalty cases, which go straight to the Supreme Court. So if I am elected to this court, we will be handling appeals dealing with criminal matters, contract matters, civil matters, family law matters, pretty much anything you can think of. And so it's important because the decisions that the courts of appeals make in those cases really set legal precedents that affect how the lower courts apply the law. I like to tell people that the work of the Court of Appeals can be summarized in how it's different from the trial court, in that it is ultimately a reading, research, and writing job. The Courts of Appeals judges, when the case comes in, they receive a written brief, a 20 plus page document making the legal arguments, and Courts of Appeals only deal with legal issues, not factual. The judges review those arguments, do whatever research they want to do, possibly have oral arguments, which are capped at 30 minutes, and then issue a written decision. And those decisions, I've committed that as a judge, I will work to write well-written, well-reasoned decisions that give attorneys guidance and the public guidance as to why I reached the decisions that I reached. There is, unfortunately, we'll talk about that later. It's important that we have people on the Courts of Appeals who understand that those decisions need to be well written so that the attorneys and parties in the future actually know how are the courts looking at the issues that I'm bringing before the court. I will address real quick one issue. There's one of my opponents in this race has been saying, well, he's the only judge in the race and you should only elect somebody who's been a trial court judge to the Court of Appeals. I want you to know that that's wrong for a number of reasons, not only because the work of these courts are very different, but we have ample precedent of people who have gone straight to the Court of Appeals and have done a great job there. In fact, 70%, almost 70% of President Trump's federal judicial nominees to the Courts of Appeals have never been trial court judges before. In Ohio, we have one judge on our Court of Appeals. But look at our state Supreme Court, Justice Fisher, former Justice DeGennaro, Justice French, all started in the Court of Appeals. This is a critically important race. It's easy to overlook judicial races. I hope that you spend time looking at this race, and of course I hope that you support me in the race. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Have I filled the time? All right.
Who'd like to ask a question? All right. So, well, you did talk a little bit about one of your opponents. Is there anything else you'd like to say about your other opponents without throwing mud and all, or?
I don't really want to talk about them. I mean, I want to, it's a substantive issue that one opponent has brought up, and so I think it's important to address it. But I don't need to talk about the others. I'm out, and I've been telling people all along, and I mean it. I started looking at this race when I realized that the current occupant of this seat was barred under Ohio's age bar statute for judges. He could not run again because of his age. So I started looking at this seat because I think it's critically important that we have the right people elected to our courts. I didn't get in it because I was upset with somebody else or opposed to these other people. We lost 2 seats on the Ohio Supreme Court in 2018, but we also lost some seats on the Courts of Appeals around the state, not in the 12th District where we live, but in other courts around the state, and we need to make sure that we shore up those Courts of Appeals. In particularly, Hamilton County, they have their own Court of Appeals. It's the 1st District, we're the 12th. I think it's important that you know that Hamilton County's Court of Appeals used to be kind of regarded as the conservative intellectual leader among the courts of appeals in the state. Other courts looked to the 1st District. And there's been a lot of changes on that court. I would say that it is not the textualist court that it was in the past. We need the 12th district to step up, to be that intellectual leader in the state. I think I offer the right skills to do that job.
All right. Good job. Nick Owens for the race in 66, and Nick is by himself, and the chairs are empty for Freeman and Byrd. So Nick, you're going to have a few extra minutes. Welcome.
Thank you, Mark. One of the things I say continuously on the campaign is we're all running in a Republican primary election on March 17th. I think everyone in here, if you're voting in the Republican primary, by a large amount, we all support Donald Trump, we're all pro-Second Amendment, and we're all pro-life. So beyond that, there's probably not much separation on those core issues with us as candidates for all the races in here, from top to bottom. So what I think in my race, of course, my opponents aren't here, so you only get to hear my perspective, but I think in my race, what makes the difference is the person and their experience and their leadership. I've been an assistant prosecutor for the last 7 years. Prior to that, I have a bachelor's degree in finance and real estate. I graduated at the age of 20, first generation college graduate. And then I later went to law school when I graduated from the University of Dayton School of Law in just 2 years. I don't let grass grow beneath my feet. And I've been an assistant prosecutor for the last 7 years, where I've literally prosecuted thousands of individuals, both misdemeanor and felonies, including one individual who's serving 7 life sentences in prison right now for raping children. I've also prosecuted individuals who are killed people through involuntary manslaughter, through drug overdoses, felonious assault, the whole gamut of offenses, from really traffic offenses all the way to the most serious crimes there is. So I think when we send people to Columbus, we need to send people who could hit the ground running. If I'm elected in the 66th House District, and there is no Democrat opponent, I'm the only, so whoever wins the primary is the next elected person from the 66th House District. I will hit the ground running. I will not need help drafting bills. Actually, I'll have 5 or 6 bills ready to go that I will introduce to it's the staff called LSC that helps you introduce bills. And some of my core issues that I believe is very important for our district is public infrastructure, the 66th district. Here in Union Township, we're very lucky. I'm sure everyone here can get high-speed internet. That's not the case in the 66th House District. Too many areas of the district cannot get high-speed internet. How can you participate in a modern society if you have to go to McDonald's or the local library to get Wi-Fi connection? How can someone further their education if they can't have reliable internet? How can someone entertain themselves if you don't have high-speed internet? High-speed internet has become a real quality of life issue, and I think it's something in 2020, all areas of the state, not only the 66th House District, the Senate District, really need high-speed internet. How do we expect businesses to come and locate and recruit talent if people can't have high-speed internet? See, where I live in Georgetown, in Brown County, I grew up in Batavia, but I live in Georgetown now, I have high-speed internet, but if you go 1 or 2 miles out of town, you don't. And we're very privileged to have in our area wonderful areas outside of the suburban areas if you really want to raise a family. And a little side note, I am married. I have one son who's 5.5 months old. His name's Samuel. He keeps it, I call him Sammy the Sleep Stealer. He kept us up twice last night. But so anyway, how can you recruit people and businesses if you don't have high-speed internet? So that's one thing. Also, our roads. Thankfully, 32's track funding, which is funding allows people to get the projects going quicker in the expansion. But we've had a eastbound lane now on 32, 3 lanes. That westbound lane should have been long overdue. That should have happened at the same time. ODOT should have funded both of them at the same time. So you might not sit in front of Holman Motors as much on going eastbound, but if you want to go westbound, you're still sitting there. That needs to change. Additionally, We need more economic opportunity in the district. You know, we have a great unemployment rate in this state. However, in portions of the 66 House District, if you want a low-wage job, so we might find you a job, but it's a low-wage job. We need sustainable jobs, jobs that you can raise a family on, and jobs that you don't have to drive an hour to work. And that's important, particularly for the rural districts. Now, we've had some discussions about education. One of the things I'm really pushing for is I think in our education, in our schools, the state should directly fund a school safety resource officer in every school building. And so that's a police officer. And all too often, school districts now cannot afford that because that's a high expense. But if we don't protect our children from disaster, from evil people with guns or any other means, what purpose do we have in government? I truly believe the state should be funding that. One of the things I say is we don't have a revenue problem in the state of Ohio. We have a spending priority problem. We have plenty of revenue. It's what we decide to spend it on. One of the things that's near and dear to my heart is criminal justice reform. Unfortunately, I think there's a bill in the legislature right now that's going in the wrong direction. SB 3 in the Senate right now would declassify felony fentanyl, heroin, meth to a misdemeanor. Our courts are not set up for that. We need courts. That doesn't mean as soon as someone gets caught with a felony offense, small amount of drugs, that we throw them away, and throw the key away, lock them up. No, we don't do that. But we cannot make it as a misdemeanor. I truly believe our criminal justice system needs to both have a carrot and a stick. That carrot is, hey, if you do what's right, we have programs in place. You can get your record sealed. We can get this off your record. But if you don't do what's right, you got to go to prison. You got to have a felony on your record. If we just slap people on the wrist, we're not going to change this epidemic. And one thing that's very important to me where I live in Brown County, and I know it applies to others in Claremont County, is one of the first pieces of legislation I will introduce as a state representative is that we need to make sure our elected officials work full-time for full-time pay. Currently, to work as an elected official in the county level, for instance, you're only required to show up once every 90 days or perform a function of your job once every 90 days. That's wrong. That's totally wrong. Those laws are archaic. They were written when you rode a horse to town, stayed the night, and went back home. And as I use the line my dad gave me, you only had one horse to get to town. Now you have 200 horses in your vehicle, if not more. Get your butt to work. You know, if we're going to have a law on the books that says you only have to show up once every 90 days, it needs to be adequate with 2020. Again, I'll start where I began. I'm 100% pro-life, 100% Second Amendment, 100% support Donald Trump, and I'm totally against the red flag laws, whoever asked that. So, any questions?
All right. What do you got?
Please explain where that district is.
Oh, yeah. Explain the outline of your district, Nick. And what's your question?
I'll let him.
All right. Well, just yell it out.
So the 66 House District is an easy way of saying it's everything south of 32 to this section of Union Township. So it's Pierce Township, Batavia Township, Williamsburg Township, Jackson Township, and everything south in Claremont County and all of Brown County. So each district's about 115,000 people. There's 99 House districts in the state of Ohio, 33 Senate, of course, 1/3. And one of the things I forgot to mention, I do represent you currently on the State Board of Education. I represent the 10th district. I was elected in 2016. I cover 17 counties and over 1 million constituents.
What's your question? I'll just repeat it. So talk about the House bill that decriminalizes addicts, or how would you help addicts go about becoming more productive members of society? How would you deal with the addict problem?
Well, I think, like many people would say, it's a multi-layered approach. All too often, for people to truly get help, they have to get in the criminal justice system through getting indicted or charged with a crime. I'd like to stop that. I think we don't have enough drug treatment here in the state of Ohio, particularly in our rural areas. All too often, if you want drug treatment, you have to have a car to get there, and often people who are on drugs don't have cars. And then when they don't have cars, or if they do have a car, they have a suspended license. We need more availability of drug treatment, and that starts there. With the regards, currently I think the way we handle a felony offense is pretty adequate. Not many people understand this, but we have what we call an intervention in lieu of conviction, an ILC. If you're charged with a felony of the 4th or 5th degree, which is the second lowest and the lowest felony offenses, and it's a simple possession of drugs, you're able to enter into a diversion program where that charge will be dismissed after a year if you follow the treatment program. And that's a system I believe it works. Unfortunately, all too often, people fail that system and don't get the treatment and ultimately end up with a conviction. But I think what it boils down to is we don't have, at the most basic level, enough drug treatment facilities. There's waiting lists. Too often, and I see this as an assistant prosecutor, is people have to wait months in jail or prison to get a bed in a treatment center, and I think that's wrong, and we need more access.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll take, oh, there we go. Yes. Where do you stand on ed choice and unconstitutional funding for public schools?
Well, the Ohio Supreme Court has ruled on that many times. It's called the DeRolf decision. I would agree with the Ohio Supreme Court that our school funding mechanism is still unconstitutional. It needs to be fixed. It's not an easy issue. The state of Ohio currently, it's the Cupp-Patterson bill that's been pending for the last 2 years. It gains traction, then it goes nowhere. It gains traction. The problem in the state of Ohio is we have urban districts, rural districts, suburban districts, and they're all funded differently. And you tax a district in Adams County, you can have a 10 mil levy that gets 1/10 of what a 2 mil levy in a very wealthy district. We have a lot of inequities, but when it comes to ed choice in the voucher program, I think if we're going to fund the voucher program, it needs to be funded directly from the state. Currently, right now, you could get a voucher. Our report card system, I think, frankly, is broken for our local schools. It needs fixed. But you could get a voucher right now, even if you have a kid that's never stepped foot in a public school. And I think that's unfair to the districts. The districts shouldn't have to pay for that if the kid never was there. Now, with that being said, if the state is going to give kids a voucher, I believe they should fund it directly, and it should not be on the backs of the school districts.
Okay. All right, we're going to take another question? Yep, go ahead.
Now in this program, addicts for a year, they have to go through the program for a whole year. Is that how that works?
So do addicts have to go through their rehabilitation program for a year, and do they get tested, et cetera, et cetera?
So currently in our intervention in lieu of conviction program, it's a program that has to be authorized by the judge, the defense attorney, and the prosecutor's office, and they have to show up once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. They have to go to treatment. They have to stay clean. They have to get a job. Sometimes they have to get a GED. If they do not do those things, then they don't get to go down the pathway where they get to avoid that conviction. But we do have systems in place. What a lot of people talk, and I'm completely supportive of it, is that we need to expand intervention in lieu of conviction for more than just drug offenses, because all too often a breaking and entering charge or a burglary charge are a result of the drug issue. But because it's not a drug-affiliated crime, you're not eligible for that diversion. I think we need to increase the diversion. Again, it's the carrot and stick. If we put all these things in place, in line for people to do, you should be rewarded, and you should be able to get yourself back on your feet. But if you don't do what you're doing, unfortunately, we have to punish you, because there's no other way to wake people up, in my opinion.
All right, now we take our 5-minute break. Next up is House District 65. Thanks, Nick. We're going to hold these guys tight to 5 minutes each. If they want to wrap up in 4 minutes or something and take a few questions, that's their choice. And but each will have 5 minutes, and we Blevins.
Hey everybody, my name is Dylan Blevins. I'm running for state representative for District 65. Let me tell you, if we went back 6 months ago and you would have asked, Dylan, are you ever going to run for office, I would have laughed in your face. Never thought I had a political ambition. Grew up locally, went to Goshen K through 12, graduated, got my Warrior pin for all my Warrior fans here. I like all the other school districts too, so don't beat me up if you're from West Claremont or somewhere else. I'm an NRA pistol instructor, and simply put, I was sitting at home one night and I heard Beto O'Rourke get on live TV and say that hell yes, he was going to take our AR-15s. And people have heard this story. That's why I got in this race. The very next day, I was at a gun store. I bought an AR-15. I signed up to become an NRA pistol instructor, and I started figuring out what can I do locally. Let me tell you, people, I've been called everything. A kid, you're too young. Let me tell you, get me in the Ohio House. No one is going to be tougher on Larry Householder than me. Don't send somebody who's backed by Larry Householder, who's essentially a bot vote. I'm not bought or backed by anybody. I'm not backed by Claremont County, GOP swamp. I'm not backed by, hey, we could go on all day there, and I will. Let me kick the kickstand out a little bit. The GOP Claremont endorsement process was crooked. We have the party chair who's under investigation from the FBI for a $50,000 bribe. You've had Chris Hicks kicked out of meetings for First Amendment violations. I don't know, we could go on and on, but let me just leave it there. The FBI is investigating the party. The endorsement process was closed door before the petition deadline, yada, yada, yada. We have Claremont Swamp. Then we have the Columbus Swamp, which is Larry Householder back in Gene Schmidt. And you got both these politicians duking it out. And then you have me. I'm just the outsider. I'm not bought and paid for by anybody. I'm going to go to the Ohio House. We're going to push for House Bill 381. That's Ohio Stand Your Ground. House Bill 201, which I seen Tom Brinkman here earlier, is a constitutional carry. These are things we need to get done. We've had politicians. Look, we had a state representative who was in the Ohio House for 8 years. Just got done. Sponsored 0 bills. Sponsored 0 bills. Got nothing done. Do you want more of the same? Then keep electing politicians. I'm not a politician, but I'm going to go up there and I'm going to be a pain in the rear end of Mike No Spine DeWine, all these rhinos up in Columbus. I know we're all getting fed up with them. I see what's happening in Virginia where you have 20,000 people marching in the streets with AR-15s fighting for their gun rights. What happens 2 weeks later? The Virginia House passes a gun ban. They just passed a ban in the Virginia House to ban assault weapons, suppressors, and extended magazines. Okay? What I'm here to say is that can be in Ohio tomorrow. We have a Republican majority in the Senate, the House, and we have Ohio Republican as governor. And we're talking about red flag laws. Are you kidding me? Quit electing rhinos. Quit electing establishment. Get some Claremont County deplorables up in Columbus who will fight for you.
Thank you. Well, you got a couple minutes if you're open for questions. That's your choice. You want to take some questions? Well, I know we're already going to have one question over here. It has to do you support vouchers and the how would you deal with the unconstitutional issue that the Supreme Court flagged?
Absolutely. And I don't mean that negative at all. I really like when people have questions and, hey, she's been attacking us on Facebook. I'm just kidding. Which is great. Yeah, I mean, I'm just having fun. But where do I stand on vouchers? I was for decreasing vouchers. I think the Ohio House is making the right decision to decrease vouchers. We were spiraling out of control. We were going to go from 400 schools to 1,200 schools if nothing was done that was going to allow ed choice. I'm for school choice, all about it, but it was opening the gates too wide. So I think I differentiate from some people in this room, but I will come out against ed choice. I'm for it to certain levels, but not as big as it was getting. We need strong public schools. Also, as far as House Bill 920, I'll say this. It was passed in 76. It was deemed unconstitutional in 96. I was 6 years old when it was deemed unconstitutional. Gene Schmidt's been in the Ohio House already. What happened? Did she get it changed? No. John Becker was just in the Ohio House for 8 years with a master's degree and an emphasis in taxation. I've heard it over and over again. Did he get anything done? No. So I'm not some expert on taxation, but I have a spine. I will go to the Ohio House of Columbus and I'll fight for it. And whatever you do, don't send Larry Householder's buddy. Larry Householder was talking about in 2021, Cut Patterson's going to come up for renegotiation. They're going to change some things and potentially pass it into the new budget, which will change funding. And I'll be a good, strong voice in Columbus for that.
Okay. Thank you. Gene? So Bonnie Batchelor was the endorsed GOP candidate. I don't believe she's here. And so we're going to start with John Becker. 5 minutes.
Okay. I'm John Becker, your state representative, or the state representative of the 65th House District, and a candidate for Claremont County Commissioner. Many of you know my reputation as being considered the most conservative legislator, one of the most conservative legislators in the Ohio General Assembly. I am both a fiscal conservative as well as a social conservative. I vote no on a lot of bills that spend money because I respect your money and your tax dollars. They belong to you. They do not belong to the government. So what I've been working on is trying to eliminate the income tax and to reduce taxes, and you can't do that by continuing to increase money, which is what we have a bad habit of doing in Columbus. We love to spend your money, and that is part of the problem. As far as being a social conservative, you know, the issues that are most important to me, number one, pro-life. I'm also endorsed by Ohio Right to Life and Cincinnati Right to Life and Family First PAC. Also, the gun issue is very important to me. I'm endorsed by Buckeye Firearms with an A+ rating. I also have an A+ rating from the NRA. The other issues, so for something I've always stood up for, so my platform, pro-life, pro-gun, limited government, and lower taxes. So things more specific to be in a commissioner's race, running on a platform of ethics, anti-corruption, and integrity, something sorely needed in Claremont County. Also, the public safety is the #1 concern. So whatever the sheriff needs, incarceration, the courts, jail system, those are the things I want to be concentrating on, as well as, like I said, ethics. And also then infrastructure, so that's highway projects, infrastructure, and economic development. So those are the issues that I'm running on. And with that, do I take questions or do I pass the mic? I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, there's always a question from this side of it. Yes, so the vouchers. Oh, that's right, okay. Your platform on education and how is it part of economic development within the county?
Okay, well, so first off on education, there's a lot going on with education in Columbus right now having to do with school vouchers. I've always been a pro-school voucher, school choice person and continue to be. Now, I'm also hearing a lot from the public schools. Where we're going to go with this, or I can tell you what the Speaker of the House wants to do with all this, is he wants to get rid of the performance-based issues with the vouchers and have it strictly needs-based. So a lot of the pushback that we're getting from the public schools is, is the grading system fair? There's a lot of arguments that it's not. And something I keep hearing about is our funding system is unconstitutional. Well, to say that our funding system is unconstitutional is just simply wrong. I mean, a lot of people believe that it is. The reason that it is wrong is to say that is because every law passed by the General Assembly, or passed by a municipality for that matter, is assumed to be constitutional unless or until a court rules otherwise. So, since the DeRolf decision back in the 90s, there's like 5 iterations of that, our funding formula has changed multiple times. Not defending the formula, saying it's perfect. I'm just saying it's not unconstitutional. So that's something we're always working on. Bob Cupp, he's a former state, he was originally a state senator, then he was on the state Supreme Court. He's now one of my colleagues in the Ohio House. He's working with Representative Pattison on doing a complete rewrite of the formula. And, hopefully, we'll see what comes out of that. I don't know. So that's kind of really all my thoughts on the school funding issue. Something I did want to throw in, that I am the candidate who is vetted, tested, and proven. Jennifer.
Real quick.
Is it important, do the commissioners work closely with the Ohio
Okay, so the question is, the working relationship between, I got 15 seconds to answer. The working relationship between the commissioners and the General Assembly and getting things done. It's very important to have a working relationship, and I'll give you an example. One of the commissioners asked me about a bill having to do with contractors. I've got that bill, working with the County Commissioners Association of Ohio, got that drafted. And it's going out, it's going to get a bill number on that soon. So what's very important is when you get the experience and you got the connections and you know who to call, you can short circuit a whole lot of the bureaucracy. That's why constituents call me and say, hey, I can't get through to such and such agency, can you help me out? And the answer is yes, because I can't get through to them.
Good job, John. John McGraw.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you all for coming tonight. I'm impressed with the amount of turnout. This means you care about our community. I'm so glad you're here. I want to point out how beautiful this RJ Cinemas is. This is a great place, and I'm glad to see a lot of life here tonight. We need people always say they want more restaurants and more things to do. I'm glad to see this place is taken off. Economic development is very important. When I first ran, I said I was going to fill empty storefronts. I'm John McGraw. I'm a trustee here in Union Township. So welcome to Union Township for those who are visiting. Across the street, when I first got elected, that was a dilapidated shopping center. All the stores were closed. One of the tenants was the Yellow Ribbon Center, which nothing wrong with that, but they basically didn't have any tenants. Look at it now, all these new stores over here. Did I do that by myself? No. But we've got a great team here in Union Township. Teamwork is very important. You got to have a good economic team to get these things done, to get RJ Cinemas done, to get all the new businesses that are coming in, like TQL is bringing 1,000 new jobs. You have to have a good team. Right now, on our county level, we don't have a good team. Everybody quit. So right now, we don't have an economic development department at Claremont County. I'm going to bring the expertise and get the right team in there. The next thing is corruption. We've had way too much corruption on our county level. Day one, I'm going to audit every department. I'm going to establish a whistleblower program so people who work in the county can feel like they can come to somebody and tell them what's going on in their department. We've got to stop the corruption. We've had too many people kicked out of office for corruption. Just this year, our county engineer had to step down for corruption. That should not happen. The next thing is public safety. You don't have to wonder what I'm going to do for public safety. Just check my record as a Union Township trustee. We've got new patrol cars. We've hired more police. We've put more money into our department. The same with our fire and safety and departments. Our 911 call center, we put more money into it. We're making better departments. We got a great police department. I'm going to do that with the county sheriff. Does everybody know here that part of our jail is dormant, is not even being used right now? The jail needs to be revamped. I'm not saying lock everybody up, but that'd be a great place to put a treatment center. The opioid crisis that people are bragging that the deaths are down. That's because all our sheriffs are running around with Narcan in their car. Now that's great that they can bring someone back to life with the Narcan in their car, but they shouldn't have to do that. So we got to stop the opioid crisis. Now there's a new thing, the methamphetamines are back, except it's called ice, and it's coming from Mexico. The little meth farm in the guy's back trailer is not where it's coming from. It's coming across the border. And we got a real problem here with that right now. We've got to stop the ice problem. So, my platform's going to be transparency, economic development, and public safety. Those are the core things I'm going to work on, and I'm going to stop the corruption in Claremont County.
Okay, we have a bonus candidate in the room tonight with Gloria Martin, who's running for the Central Committee, and at the end of the night, we're going to fit her in right after the commissioner's race, the next slot. So we're going to take a little break right now. Any quick questions for John McGraw? Or John Becker? Either John. Are you saying it again? Same question? Well, what?
Sure. I think he knows. I've already asked him. But your stance on the importance of high-quality education as it relates to economic development in the county.
the importance of high-quality education as it relates to economic development.
In Union Township, we got a partnership with West Claremont, and because we took over the old Glen Estee property, we made that a TIF. The money's going to go to fund the new West Claremont High School. Since we've done that, we've had massive amount of new economic development here in Union Township. It's a clear correlation. Good, strong schools bring businesses. Businesses didn't want to locate in Union Township. We'd have the deal all signed, and they'd say, yeah, but you guys can't pass a levy, and your Glen Estee school, the roof leaks. So we're going to pull out on this deal. We couldn't have that. We got to have good, strong schools. Bethel, New Richmond, all these schools are having struggles. You go to these little towns like Williamsburg, New Richmond, you'll see that the houses are falling apart. Walk through the streets of Bethel. There's a big problem. These houses are falling apart. We need economic development to get people good jobs so they can take care of their house.
All right, thank you, John. All right, probably 24 meetings where Chris was probably leading or speaking or part of it. In almost every one of those meetings, David Painter would attend. Ironic, he's not here today. Conspicuously absent. So, for the commissioner race, Chris Hicks.
All right. Some of you know I'm also the chair of the Union Township Republican Committee, and this is a Union Township Republican Committee event. I was not on the committee for the event, but you watch me running around. I'm a consultant of the committee to make sure we got everything right. Okay, I love the turnout. I love the turnout. And I especially love the District 65 race. And why do I want to highlight that? We had all three candidates here. They all gave good speeches. That is, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. That is how politics is supposed to work, folks. That is how it's supposed to work. I'm not on a quest just to be commissioner. I'm on a quest to change the political system in our county, to be more responsive, more engaging, to have more events like this. I grew up in Hamilton County. If anybody's checking my resume, on the weekends I went to Bethel. My mom can testify. Okay, my dad lived in Bethel, but I grew up in Mount Washington. And I remember as a kid the era of the Friends of Joe DeCourcy scandal. How many remember that? The Friends of Joe DeCourcy scandal, where the Republican auditor in Hamilton County was outright corrupt. Okay? And what happened? The Republicans for a long time stood with him. That's what created Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes is a Republican who couldn't find a place in his own party, became a Democrat, and was the first Democrat elected. I saw that happen there. I don't want that to happen here. We can fix our party, we can fix our political system if we get our heads out of our you-know-whats, okay, and we embrace that a primary is a beautiful thing. A primary is a beautiful thing. And I just want to take my hats off to Joe Dills, Gene Schmidt, and Dylan Blevins for all three of you being here in that one race. Now, as a candidate for commissioner, I have a 17-point platform. It grows. If you give me a good idea, I'm going to add it on there. You'll find me adding it on there. And if I become commissioner, I want you to measure me against that platform. I'm going to hit all 17 points in the next minute. No, okay? Repeal the auto license plate tax. The auto license plate tax was put in place before the huge Mike DeWine gas tax increase. Supposedly, we only needed it. We got something that was over 3.5 times more than it. But you know, politicians, they never repeal a tax once they put it in place. I'm going to get that repealed. By the way, it takes 2 votes in the commissioners to get anything done, but both John Becker and John McGraw told me they would vote with me every time. That's a joke. That's a joke. Okay? Takes 2 votes, but you know, there ain't nobody going to fight harder than me to get shit done. Second thing, reprioritize the county budget to better fund roads, law enforcement, etc. We waste a lot of money on stuff we don't need. Boondoggle trips, like $18,000 for the auditor's leadership team to go to Orlando, to Walt Disney World. Cut that stuff. Live stream county public meetings. Live stream them so you can watch them on Facebook or on YouTube. Double local fund dollars to townships. How would Chris Hicks double local fund dollars to townships? Have the county quit taking half of the local fund dollars off the top. I don't know that people know that the local fund that's been cut, the county takes half of it as it currently stands. Fifth, require transparency from entities funded by the government. I'm glad to announce something here today. The Claremont County Convention and Visitors Bureau signed a settlement with me where they are going to become transparent as to their financial records and minutes. They are 95% taxpayer funded. Claire Corcoran promised to do that on video as a campaign promise. I got it done. I'm not even a commissioner. Okay? So that's just new news. Slash waste, fraud, and abuse. I talked about bogus trips. Improve the FC Cincinnati deal. Okay? The politicians set it up that it is renewable every year. Do I like FC Cincinnati? Actually, I hate soccer. I don't like watching soccer. Okay? Yes, be with me. I don't hate FC Cincinnati, but I got to think even they would like a better deal that can be more positive for them and us there. And fully fund the Milford schools out of the taxes that should have been being paid by FC Cincinnati. Fix the Economic Development Office. It's all gone now. They all quit. Sell off South Afton. We never should have been in speculative real estate development in the first place. That's number 8. Number 9, make high-speed internet available in the entire county. By the way, a commissioner doesn't do that, but the county's the biggest purchaser of internet services in the county, and you got to know how to use the bully pulpit. None of our commissioners today know how to negotiate deals. None of them know how to use easements and things that the county government has as motivators. Number 10 is fix the county culture to end a culture of reprisal and reward merit. I'm all in on John McGraw's proposal to have a whistleblower line and to end a scenario where people get demonized for bringing forward crimes. I brought forward David Ubel's situation. I ended up having to pay $100 of court cost. What does that message does that send to the citizens who bring things forward to the court? Allow concealed carry in every county building unless prohibited by law. Right now, most county buildings have preemption of concealed carry in the buildings. That should only happen where it's required by law. Improve county administration is number 12. And welcome help. I'm proud to say it. I'm proud of Union Township. Ken Geis, who is our administrator, is a genius. He is an employee. We need that kind of talent working at the county level. If we do, what happened in Union Township can be happening countywide. We got to stop demonizing talent in our county, and we got to embrace talent. They're employees, not elected officials, so they got to follow the rules of the elected officials. But it is bullshit that we demonize effective leaders in administration in our county. 13, implement an infrastructure expansion plan. We should already have a plan for expanding the sewer system within Claremont County. Right now, it's a pay-as-you-go thing. It is ridiculous. It is holding back growth in our county. 14, incent micro and field-to-table farming. I think part of what can fix these small villages that are dilapidated states is getting people that want to have 5 or 10 acre farms for micro and field-to-table farming. 15, fight decades later to finish East Fork Lake. East Fork Lake's supposed to have a lodge. It's great that we have rowing competitions there, but if we had a lodge, from what I understand, I'm not going to do it, but people that like to watch birds would come all year round and hang out there. But we never got a lodge. Why? It was on the original plan. Let's push our legislators to get that done. 16, number 16, I'm almost done. How am I doing on time? Get better updates and action on hazardous environmental sites. We have 2 of them. Seacoast, if you don't know about Seacoast, CECOS, we have a hazardous environmental site that if it starts leaking is going to flow into Harsha Lake. Okay? And we have Beckjord. And I'm going to say the words on Beckjord, cover up. There is a cover-up going on at Beckjord and a payoff that is causing our elected officials to look the other way on a hazardous waste mess waiting to happen there when those ash pits break open. And then the 17th item is expand our airport runway. Expand our airport runway. We should have done it long ago. It could be a competitive advantage for us. I think that's my time. Thank you, Mark. Tell me what happens next.
Okay, let's get Gloria up here. And thank you, Chris. We're fitting her in before 9. Do you have some questions for Chris? I can't believe anybody would have any questions for Chris, would they? Oh, wow, we got a bunch. Okay.
I want to ask her an education question, too.
All right. Yeah.
So Chris knows my question.
Okay. Yeah, let's go with hers. What's your question? I'll just repeat it. Explain what you would do with the drug overdose problem in the county.
I'll add it to my list, okay, and talk to me afterwards. My platform's going to continue to grow. I want to be held accountable to it. You're absolutely right, okay? So if you look at that, as I go, I add things that I want to be held accountable to. We have too much leadership that has little ticky-tack things, ideas, concepts. Help me to understand what specifically we should do. John McGraw talked about the using part of the jail that's not used today, but help me with that. Also, I think that's fundamentally a key sheriff's issue. I think our sheriff is the most honest, ethical politician we have in our county right now, and I would look forward to working with him.
Okay. We good? Oh, another question. What's up? I'll just repeat it on here so it records. All right. What's the question?
I'm Jeff Mancini. I live on Rumpke Road.
Yep.
Not that you need to know. But as Claremont County Commissioner, how will you address tax increment financing abuse in Union Township?
I'm going to be real clear, because I've never minced words. The demonization of TIFs is wrong. TIFs have been an amazing tool to create amazing economic growth, and all TIFs are bad, the overuse, this is bullshit, okay? Elected officials, TIFs are called tax increment financing. It's how you basically do a thing that allows you to pull money out of real estate for use to put infrastructure in to fuel economic growth. They've been used like crazy in Union Township. It's why you have the growth. If anything, I've encouraged Ken Geis, he should put on seminars for other townships how to use TIFs to grow, to create more economic growth. We got a unique thing here in Union Township. We have economic growth that actually spins off $5 to $6 million a year to fund services. Compare that to county economic growth. What does it require? A hotel tax increase, and it sucks $9 million into a pit in South Afton. So, TIFs got to be used properly. They can't be overused, they can't be misused. But this army of things that demonize TIFs as a bad thing, TIFs are there for a reason. They need to be used properly and legally, and they're a super great tool to drive economic development that you see here.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Gloria, come on up.
I just want to address the education thing real quick. I think absolutely House Bill 920, I think the first step is House Bill 920 needs to be repealed. My kid went to private school up until the last 2 years. He went to West Claremont. We can talk after. Tom Brinkman and I were working on a bill to drive transparency on how ed choice money was flowing through, because not only is it bad for public schools, it corrupts the private schools because they get over dependent on tax dollars to fund them, and all of a sudden the private schools really aren't private because they have a big vote, which is the Department of Education, that is telling them what they need to do. That's why when Common Core testing was made optional, not a single school in the entire state of Ohio didn't do Common Core testing, because even though it got made optional, they were afraid of what the Department of Education would do to them, because they can't live without all that government money coming in now into private schools. It's something that Brinkman and I were fighting for transparency on that, so that at least people in their private schools would realize how much of that school is being funded by the state.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Gloria Martin, why don't you explain to us what the Central Committee is all about and introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, and I promise I'll be short and sweet so we can all go home and enjoy the rest of our weekend. So the State Central Committee, it's a relatively unknown function. Some of you, of course, have heard about our local Central Committee, which deals with local policies and local issues and local candidates and some on the state level. State Central Committee are the agenda makers of the party, and especially we're focused on, of course, the Ohio State Central Committee. They have a few functions, very important functions. So again, it's you're setting the agenda. What goals are they going to work on for the years, and especially we're focused on keeping Ohio red, especially through this presidential election and the ones forward. So we're keeping Ohio red. Also, we're focusing on the financing. When we look at candidates, and we look at all the candidates who are here tonight, and there are state endorsements. And so we're talking about how do they get those state endorsements and what comes with those endorsements. It's finances. We all vote with our money. We all expect that money to be paid correctly into candidates who represent our values. On State Central Committee, they vet state candidates and state judicial judges and then support fiscally those candidates, and as well they have a fundraising role to overall help support the entire party. Jane Timken, of course, is the head of the Ohio GOP. And so again, so it's twofold. So you're looking at financing and you're looking at nominations. Two very important roles if you're concerned overall where Ohio is going in the years to come. If you're looking at the setup of State Central, it's comprised of 66 seats, 33 women and 33 men. A little sexist, if you ask me. And it's divided, I'm in the 14th Senate District, and so we're looking at, of course, the Senate District, so Claremont, Brown County, Lawrence, Scioto, what did I forget? Adams County, thank you. I was there, I went to Adams County today and Brown County today. Third trip today. And so there's 33 women, 33 men. Both seats are opposed. I'm running against an incumbent, and then we have 2 opposed seats on the men's ticket. So that's an overall summary of what it is. And a little bit about me. I'm local here in Claremont County, born and raised, grew up doing, 4-H, fantastic family. I have a background in teaching education. I got my degree 2 years from UC Claremont, 2 years from NKU, graduated debt-free. Yes, it can be done. I currently work for a company called Q Laboratories, located Middle Price Hill area. I work in operations, and so I do politics on the side. This is a total pro bono position. It's unpaid. They meet 4 times a year. 4 very important times a year. So I would appreciate your support and any questions you might have.
Oh, the winner is, okay, State Senate, Terry Johnson. State Rep in 66, Nick Owens. State Rep in 65, Gene Schmidt. Appeals, Matt Byrne. Commissioner, 1 of 3, John McGraw. And then the other race, Commissioner Chris Hicks. So those are our winners from the straw poll.